again on Off on a Tangent with Ali, my experimental YouTube channel here. So we're going to go off on a tangent again, this time with Greg Pettis here at Pun Pun Organic Farm Center for Self-Reliance and Seed Saving Bank, started by John Jandai and his wife Peggy. Yeah, and it's been what, 21 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I met Greg here at Pun Pun back in November. So it's like been 9 months, when I came to volunteer here for 6 weeks. So yeah, so we really kind of hit it off in our conversations about many things. So I thought it would be really cool to have you come and have a chat with me and catch up on things. And I think we bonded on a number of different subject matters about, I guess, the state of the world and food systems and education and things. Yeah, and you have a blog that you write, which is amazing. I'll be happy to plug that later for you. But yeah, let's talk about your your writing. Like talk about your why you're writing and what subjects that are really intriguing to you that you are exploring in your writing.
All right. Well, I guess mostly it's the search for home, for exploring what is needed to live in a place well, and that seeking, that longing to find that place and reconnect with that very ancestral human, aspect of our collective shared experience that seems to be has been severed from our recent experience together collectively.
Right. And that's kind of the name of your blog. What's it again?
Yeah, so it's a Welsh word that I came across.
Which I love. It's a really cool word.
Yeah, it's called hiraeth. I believe it is how it's pronounced.
I'll let you say that one.
Hiraeth.
I'm not going to attempt it. If you say so, okay. I believe you.
Yeah, but it's essentially a Welsh word for a place that you miss, that is your home, that you long for, that you cannot go back to because it's not there anymore. And it's a loaded word. It's referring, of course, to a physical place for all the various diasporas so many humans experience, but it's on a deeper level too because of changes in mentality and how we relate to a place. You return to a place and maybe it's physically there, but because of people's ability to see, relate, what mythologies are present, which zeitgeist, the overall understanding of many things, it's not there anymore.
Right. So we also talked some during my time here before about our backgrounds in being involved in political activism back in the old country, back in
the
America,
old world,
right? And especially with what is going on right now in the U.S. with the election coming up, 2024.
Yeah. Oh.
Look, I've been really disconnected from it, but I guess maybe in relation to what we both used to be in, the space that we used to be in, and where we are now. Do you have any reflections and thoughts on what how things have evolved and where we are at the present?
Yeah, I think, well, another layer of that idea of hiraeth and is this recognition of grief and the role that it plays in our human experience. And I think that's a huge one right now in relationship to, the election and just the state of affairs everywhere,
Right.
And so when looking at that topic in particular, yeah, a lot of grief comes up. I think most of us, you know, at the end of the day, if we're toning our thoughts down and out of an argument space, I think I don't know too many people who wouldn't feel grief.
Right.
There's not a lot of options right now leading
Right.
away from what we're seeing unfold. And yet, you know, considering the lifestyle that we have here as gardeners, as seed
Right.
savers, there's a very constant intergenerational thread amongst all of that, which is decay. And so that's an unavoidable aspect of life, and it's certainly true for the garden.
Yeah.
You know, for things to grow healthy, there has to be a lot of death, a lot of decay, and that's actually quite beautiful. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I think you'd address that view quite a bit in your writing about allowing things to fall apart or takes its course. And this actually was mirrored in the book that we both love, Braiding Sweetgrass.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, maybe we should talk a little bit about that too.
Sure.
I mean, just stepping back a second, just to tell my own story about my own involvement in grassroots movement building and things back in the US. I mean, I was heavily in it for like 3.5 years or something right before COVID, and then we moved to England. And so there was a natural break anyway, but I think it was coming to its conclusion, like I was burning out and everything like that. It was not sustainable. And I think what I learned in that space of the systems that we operating in, the systems that essentially has precipitated so many of our crises that we are facing in the world right now, whether it's climate or democracy or, you know, epidemic of depression and health, you know, food systems. I got front row seat to see, you know, how broken it is and things. And
the Justice Democrats, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So ended up going down that route, but you know, it was just as well. I felt like, and I think, you know, me ending up finding my way to a place like Pan Pan and then coming back here was part and parcel of me on this journey, on this search for home, just as you say. And that connection, that authentic connection, and that right relationship, and how to live on this in this world as a human being. You know, that's not just good for the environment, but you know, in line with our nature, our true nature, in a way that will, you know, balance us and heal us, right, and take us back. And I think Braiding Sweetgrass really kind of like brought it home for me in the sense of like, yeah, a lot of human cultures around the world. She was showcasing a Native American perspective, but like very much at the core of us as a species, as nature in ourselves, and a really very humble and grateful kind of way of viewing the world and our relatives, you know, our tree relatives, our bird relatives, our other living things.
Yeah.
And that was just so beautiful. And also the Thanksgiving address, you know, that just really touched my heart a lot. I've like reading that book, I cried so many times because of the grief of where we've come away from that, you know, way of living, but also so hopeful.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just such a funny kind of place to be in that book where I'm constantly in this balance of feeling deep, you know, grief and but also like it's so beautiful that the way like the relationship with the salmon and, you know, in the Pacific Northwest or with the sweetgrass. Did you have any kind of your own reflections about that book that really kind of
Well, I mean, just as you're speaking to that topic, I think that's a really important one. The recognition, you know, it seems like in the modern world we have become so comfortable, right? With, you know, we don't need to deal with heat. We have air conditioning. We don't have to deal with any struggles. And like in that journey to sever all discomforts from our experience, a lot of what it means to be human atrophies. Our ability to relate with so much atrophies, right? And one of those skills, experiences is grief, right? Because it's uncomfortable, or so we think now, and so we shun it, we put it away, we don't want to look at it. But actually, grief is just the other side of, as one of my teachers, Martine Prechtel, shares, and she certainly does in that book too. It's praise, you know. So grief is praise. It's the other side of it, and you see this all the time, like in Bakayon communities near here, or certainly, as she's referenced in Braiding Sweetgrass and other places, and we try to embody that here too with our volunteers, or at least Rampai and I do for sure. Like before we plant seeds, remember that the seeds that you're planting are the children of somebody.
Yeah.
It's a living mother, the mother corn, you know, and that mother is giving her children so that you can live, you know. That's sad. That's a really sad thing to think about, and yet it gives joy. And all of life is doing this. Always something is dying so that something else can live. So it's this interesting dance between grief and praise, joy and sorrow it's the same thing. I think one thing that I'm, you know, whether it's from that book or another reference point, just the need for a third way, you know, so something beyond, you know, if we're looking at the elections, like looking at Republican or Democrat, and totally, you know, talking about atrophy of imagination, atrophy of so much, right? That we think that there's only two options, you know, in some cases less than that. But there's actually an infinite amount of possibilities, and it's really imperative that we explore that, which usually comes from the cross-pollination of seemingly opposing views, you know. And I know she talks a bit about that in that book, but that seems to be a reoccurring angle that I'm seeing coming up more and more, that seems to be recognized less and less, but it's a natural law, and you certainly see that in the garden. Like the strongest plants are the ones that are crossing with other plants, and so we have to have our views cross. It can't be Republican or Democrat. It has to be something else, and it will probably have aspects of both in it, and then a whole lot of other things. And especially at junctures as disturbing as the one we're in now, a totally new view has to emerge from colliding of opposing forces. As Bayo Akomolafe talks about, the cracks, you know, these cracks that emerge, and not being afraid of them, but nourishing them, going into them. Not
inquiry. I think he uses that word a lot, to inquire and go into the discomfort, lean into it.